and welcome back to another episode of Baking with Becca. Today I'll be showing you how to make lemon tarts. These are perfect for the summertime because they're bright and fresh just like those sunny days. So let's go ahead and get that started. To get this recipe started, you'll have to preheat your oven to 325 degrees, and then while that's heating up, we can prepare our crust. So in a large bowl, I have 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour, and I'm going to add in 2/3 cup of powdered sugar, 1/8 teaspoon of salt, and we'll mix that together gently. I'm using a pastry cutter here, but you can also use a large fork, a fork and a knife, whichever works best for you. And then go ahead and add in 3/4 cup of cold butter. Now temperature is very important here because when this crust bakes, we want that cold butter to stay cold and then it will slowly melt as we bake it. So work this butter in with your pastry cutter or your knives or your fork. All right, so we're looking for about pea-sized consistency on our butter in here, or smaller. So that looks good. We'll go ahead and turn this into our tart pan or your 9x13 pan and press it down gently. So we can go ahead and toss that in. Now a handy tool here is going to be your flat bottom measuring cup or a glass, because if we use our fingers, it's going to melt that butter. So using something cold helps us avoid that. You might need to use your hand for a little bit because sometimes you just trust your hands a little bit more. It's one of those things that does not need to look perfect, so don't worry about that. Just try and get your edges nice and tucked here. Now, if you need to, because your kitchen is too warm from preheating your oven, you can throw this into the freezer for a couple minutes so that the butter gets cold again. I normally have to do that myself. After your oven is preheated, go ahead and bake your crust for about 20 minutes until it's nice and light golden brown. While our crust bakes, we're going to prep our lemon for our filling and the filling itself. So to get the most out of your lemon, we're going to get the zest off the outside and then we're going to juice the inside. If you ask me, there's no better way to do a lemon tart than with a fresh lemon. So go ahead and take a zester and simply zest off the rind. Make sure not to go too deep because the white part on the inside gives you a bitter flavor and we don't want that. So just go gently around the whole lemon. And if you have any brown spots on your lemon, you can either cut it off or you can just avoid zesting those parts. And then, again, it doesn't need to be perfect. If you get a little bit of white in there, it's fine. All right. There we go. So we're looking for about a tablespoon of lemon zest altogether. I always just do the whole lemon because I love lemon. So now that we have our zest, we can go ahead and just set that aside here. And we're going to roll our lemon so that we get the pulp broken up on the inside. It makes it easier to juice. Then we'll go ahead and cut it in half. And I'm going to use a reamer here to get all that lovely juice out. Don't forget to strain out the seeds, everyone. We're looking to get about 1/3 of a cup of lemon juice out of this lemon. If you don't have another lemon, you can always just substitute it for lemon juice out of a bottle from the store. Or if you just barely have enough, that's fine. So I'm going to strain this so that I get that pulp out of there and my seeds. So 1 lemon wasn't enough juice for 1/3 cup on this one, so I just cut another half and I'm going to hand squeeze it. So that's totally an option if you don't have a reamer at home. Just go and hand squeeze it over a strainer to get those juices out. I just like to push the pulp a little bit. And just barely at 1/3 of a cup. So that is enough for me. I took our crust out of the oven after 22 minutes and it's got a nice light golden color on it. So as that cools, we can go ahead and prep our filling. I have here 3 eggs, 1.5 cups of sugar, 3 tablespoons of flour, 1/3 cup lemon juice, and 1 tablespoon of that lemon zest. So we'll go ahead and start by beating our eggs here until they are foamy in consistency. And then we can move on to our next step. So we've got a nice foam on top there, so that's about good for the eggs. We can go ahead and just dump the rest of our ingredients in now. So here we go with our sugar, flour, lemon juice, and our zest. And we'll go ahead and mix that for about 30 seconds or so until it's well incorporated. It'll have a little bit of a thicker consistency with the eggs and the sugar combined, but it's not really that thick, and that's fine. It's going to thicken up as it bakes. So we can go ahead and add this to our crust now. The sugar likes to sink to the bottom a little bit, so I always kind of just take a spatula and scrape around the bottom a little bit to get it up so that it doesn't all sink again. And we'll go ahead and pour it on it. Look at that. We don't like wasting anything, so if you happen to have just a little bit too much filling, you can always pour the rest into a little custard cup like this and bake that along with the tart until it's set and just eat it like pudding. So we'll go into the oven at 350 degrees now for about 15 minutes. So I pulled our tart out of the oven after about 18 minutes. So I always leave a little bit of room for error there. I did 18 just so I could have it set just a tiny bit more, but we still want a tiny bit of jiggle like that after we're done baking because it's going to finish setting while we let it cool. So let it cool for about 2 to 3 hours or so until you definitely can't feel any more heat coming off of it. And then we'll top it with powdered sugar to finish it off and have a taste. Our tart has been cooling for a few hours now, so there's no residual heat whatsoever on here. So now we can go ahead and get our tart out of our pan. So if you have a fluted tart pan like I do, you can go ahead and set it on something smaller than this centerpiece and just slowly loosen the edges around the outside and it will pop on down like this. Perfect. Now we can dust it with some powdered sugar. To finish it off. and slice into it. It's a really soft filling, and a nice crispy crust. There you have it, a nice lemon tart for summertime. Tune in next time for our next baking episode.